Hi, Sally here with you again today, and I'm really excited in this episode to be exploring some of those practical aspects of eating and living mindfully. But what I want to do first, before I get into something that we all want, and that is more time, and in this episode I'm going to be focusing on the practical things you can do to actually create time with mindfulness. But just before I go there, I do want to clear up a couple of misconceptions that I have been hearing the last few weeks around mindfulness. Being mindful doesn't mean we never have thoughts or conflicting thoughts. But what mindfulness helps us to do is pick up when we're moving off center, when we're starting to feel a bit out of balance or out of control. And by having a formal mindfulness practice, we become more aware of what being balanced, centered and in control feels like. So as soon as we start to waver from that balanced state, we pick up the change. And when I say a formal mindfulness practice, that's what I'm talking about: a sitting meditation practice or maybe a walking mindfulness practice. So it is a formal, I'm going to sit and focus on my breath, or perhaps on a mantra or a visualization. It is a formal time where you sit to train your mind to focus on one thing. What happens when we're able to use mindfulness practically in our day? We find ourselves feeling more balanced, more in control for more of the time. And how this helps us is not only with external events, but those internal thoughts and beliefs that we have. By reducing our emotional reactions to these internal thoughts or the external events, we stay calmer and we can make more conscious, considered decisions. Whether that's about to book a holiday, whether that's about, do I want that second piece of chocolate cake? No matter how big or small the decision is, we feel more settled, more clear around that decision making. Otherwise, if we let emotions direct us, we end up feeling like we are a slave to our emotions. The other aspects of mindfulness that are really important to help us feel calmer, kinder to ourselves, and create that time in our day that we want to invest in our health and well-being, to invest in our life, is to really practice non-judgment and cultivate that self-compassion and compassion for others. And this comes through the practice of observation, being able just to observe what our patterns of habit are rather than labeling them as good or bad. And the next point of the mindfulness practice is bringing in curiosity. When we see that we have some habits of thought, habits of eating that are not working for us, we can become curious and start inquiring, well, what are the other possibilities? So if you had this idea that mindfulness was really about mindfulness meditation, being calm, peaceful all the time, certainly that's what we're aiming to be very aware of our mind and to stay in a calm and comfortable space as much as possible. It really is a practical tool to help us throughout the day to stay in that calm space. It's not just about sitting on the meditation cushion and then having a crazy day after that. We want mindfulness to help us in every minute of the day. And one of the aspects of mindfulness that we don't consider is that we can actually use the practice to create a sense of space or more time in our day. So often when I'm talking to ladies about their health, a lack of time is often given as a reason for not investing in their health and well-being. And even I at times find myself saying, I don't have enough time. But I know as soon as these words have been spoken, they're not true. I do have enough time for what's important to me in this moment. Sure, to create additional time for eating well, exercising and getting enough sleep, then it does mean that time spent on social media or watching TV might have to reduce. A lot of my time coaching clients is focusing on mindful time management and breaking the habit of using time as a reason or an excuse not to invest in health and well-being. As I've shared already, mindfulness is well known as a meditation practice, but it also has that practical use in our daily activity and tasks. And in particular, mindfulness places our attention on the current moment with purpose and self-compassion. But research by Killingsworth and Gilbert back in 2010 suggested that adults spend nearly 50% of their waking time mind wandering. That is, not focused on the current moment. So that is a lot of living. In fact, it's 50% of our life that we can reclaim. And I want to share with you now how the practice of practical mindfulness creates time and helps to reduce our mind from wandering. The first thing I want to share is this concept of one task, less stress. Feelings of stress decrease when you're only thinking about the task at hand. And I want you to consider these two questions. Would I be correct in saying that much of the stress you experience related to not having enough time is created by you? Is it the actual time of day that causes the stress, or thinking about everything you want to do that leads to the stress? By bringing this back and just focusing on the current task, we get it done quicker as we are not burdened by stress. And we can also cross it off the list, and that's something that I love doing, whether it's manual or ticking the box on the computer screen. The second concept is total focus means we finish quicker. Being totally present with a task at hand means that you don't get distracted by other tasks that are still on your to-do list, so you finish quicker. Does it make sense that if we give a task or activity our full attention, that we will complete it in less time? Because when you think about it, each time our mind wanders to the previous or next task or a totally unrelated interest, we lose time and energy. And I appreciate that this may be occurring without your awareness. It's kind of like we want to go from A to Z, but instead we stop and visit each of the letters in between. So if you could go from A to Z, if Z is where you want to end up, then it's going to take less time than visiting those other 24 letters. The practice of mindfulness makes us more aware of where our thoughts and attention really are. And when we wander and we notice that we've wandered, we can bring our attention back to that current task. And this is what mindfulness meditation shows us, that when we focus, just say, on the breath, we seem to be ambushed by hundreds and thousands of thoughts. But what you may not realize, that this is happening all of the time. It's just that you only notice the thoughts when you're trying to meditate, because you're observing your mind closely. Concept 3, total focus means less checking. Because you are totally mindful of the current task, you don't need to cross-check and double-check when you finish. And this saves time. This also relates to, you might lock the front door on the way out, and then you get into the car and you think, did I lock the front door? I've got to go back and check. And these are these practical things that happen in our day. They all take time. Yet if we had been mindful in the first place, we wouldn't have had to take the extra time to go back and check. So being focused on one task or activity at a time increases your confidence that you actually correctly and fully completed it. So you don't have to keep doing that checking and rechecking. Next concept, regular practice brings more clarity. So we definitely need to have some of that more formal practice where you're having a mindfulness meditation regularly, because this does slow down the mind and body and supports clearer thinking, creating that time through efficiency and effectiveness. Bringing calmness and clarity from your meditation into everyday activities gradually helps you to filter out helpful and unhelpful thoughts. When our mind is racing, we cannot think clearly. I liken meditation to the sun lifting the fog in the morning. It removes that lack of clarity and places it with clarity. Concept 5, regular practice means less worry. A regular meditation practice based on mindfulness builds self-compassion and compassion for others. So you save time worrying about what you should have done, and you become more forgiving of yourself and others. The compassionate aspect of mindfulness is crucial. Being able to observe life without the need to judge, blame, or feel guilty or any other emotion means you are freeing up time to participate in activities that support your health and well-being. Concept 6. Being present lessens the drive to do more. Being mindful reduces that drive to keep doing. Mindfulness helps us to immerse ourselves in whatever activity we're undertaking so we gain the maximum experience. And it's a little bit scary, but also sad if you consider that nearly 50% of our time, our minds are absent. Then it makes sense that we want to be involved with more people, more movies, more traveling, and more eating, because we're missing out on 50% of these experiences. Because each time we talk to someone, we're only tuning in 50% of the conversation. When we're on holiday, we're only relaxing 50% of the time. When we eat chocolate, we only taste half of it. So by getting closer to 100% of each and every experience means we can lessen that drive to keep doing more and more. And the last thing I want to share today on this podcast is mindfulness creates meaningful choices. It connects us to what is meaningful to us so we can become more confident with our choices. I will use mindful eating as an example. The experience of eating starts well before we take our first mouthful of food. We first assess whether we're hungry and what we feel like eating. During the meal or snack, we check in to see if we've been satisfied. And after eating, we also reflect on whether our choice to eat and the foods we chose nourished us. It means we connect to the total experience of eating, and we can use this information to guide our future choices. This practical approach to mindfulness means we gain guidance on all aspects of our life, from how we speak to others, to what time we go to bed, and what movies we watch. Mindfulness makes our lives more meaningful by aligning our choices with what truly makes us happy. So I hope today this podcast has been able to open your eyes to seeing the practice of mindfulness from a really practical point of view. That whilst we do need a formal meditation, mindfulness practice, we also have the opportunity to take that mindfulness into every activity that we undertake each day. It's not time consuming because it actually saves us time. We get more enjoyment, more response from the life that we're living, and feel more empowered to make choices that do make us feel healthy and happy. So if you would like to learn more about how mindful eating can help you with your health and well-being, then you are most welcome to join me on a free mindful eating discovery call. And sometimes, well, quite often actually, the application of mindfulness is not only to our food choices, but other choices that we make in our life that impact on our food choices, our weight, and our health. So I'm going to leave the link for the Mindful Eating Discovery Call with this episode's notes. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to sharing with you again next week.